Despite being under investigation by his own board, Vince McMahon saw SmackDown as a great opportunity for a ratings bump for the show. And then he saw Monday Night Raw and he thought, well, I'm not going to advertise the fact that I'll do it, but I really enjoyed people cheering me and saying my name. So I'm just going to go out there and announce nothing again. Yeah, Vince McMahon was on this show and I'm not really... I mean, I have an idea why, but... Are we doing this every show now? Are we going to head to come out and say nothing? Is this the new normal? Anyway, we're going to discuss this in a moment. I am Luke Owen, DAD, and I'm joined by Sullivan Bo Brown.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. This is the Raw Review Podcast here on the WrestleTalk Podcast. Please do consider subscribing to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe. I've already said that one. Watch another video on this channel. And please do join the conversation over at WrestleTalk.com/support. I'm all a bit odds and ends because as people who are watching the video version of this will be able to tell, we are doing this remotely today because of train strikes here in the UK, meaning that Sullivan Bo Brown cannot get to the office. And I just did it at home. I went to the office this morning and then I drove home because I was like, well, it took me 2.5 hours to get into work. I'm not going to have it take me 2.5 hours to get back from work. I'm going to go in the middle of the day when no one's there. No one's on the roads.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you had an easy journey back because that sounds horrible.
Yeah. And it wasn't fun. But anyway, right. Okay, so here we go. On this episode of Raw, unannounced, after the opening segments or so, we had Vince McMahon's music. Mr. McMahon's music hit. Got to be very clear. They're very different people, Sullivan. There's a big difference between Vince McMahon and the character of Mr. McMahon. So
Nice.
we had Mr. McMahon come out, and he's full of smiles. He's got a big old grin on his face. The crowd erupt for his music. They're singing along with his music. You can see them all doing the Wayne's World bowing thing. And he gets into the ring looking older than he's ever looked in his life before. And he announced, I can't even say that he announced. What he said was, on next week's show, John Cena is going to be here. And that was announced on last week's episode of Raw. That's... John Cena was going to be coming. Actually, was it last week? It might have been 2 weeks ago they announced that John Cena was returning. I think it was 2 weeks ago they announced Cena's coming back. So we already knew this was happening. We knew it was going to be happening on next week's show. And also, earlier on in this episode of Raw, they'd run a video package saying John Cena's on the show next week. So this segment served literally no purpose whatsoever. And yet... the commentators had to be like, whoa, what a bombshell announcement by the boss. He graced us with his presence to make this incredible big announcement. And I was kind of dumbfounded by this. When he came on SmackDown on Friday, there were people within the company, wrestlers and people backstage, that thought what he was doing was tone deaf. It was embarrassing. And it was like, he should not be going out there to do this. This is not the way you conduct yourself as a businessman when you are literally just stepped down as CEO and your daughter has taken over as interim CEO because you're under investigation by your own board for misconduct. And he is trained as a way to be like, well, it's a good way to go out and get ratings and actually to get my ego stroked. I find this whole thing absolutely maddening and perplexing. But Sullivan, what did you make of it all?
It's mad. It's mad. I like the first time he did it and doing it, for advertising it beforehand. As you said in your Raw review, there's a possibility that that's just for a ratings bump. And Vince McMahon is that he just doesn't care about his own self-image enough to basically, I mean, like it's an embarrassing thing that he is coming out and doing this. And it's also, I can't believe that this crowd is cheering for him. Like, how is he not being booed out of the building? It's unbelievable.
It feels like a cult. It feels like a cult-like reaction for him. Because the same thing happened on SmackDown. Came out and Tempest and Pete were giving people the benefit of the doubt. The news had only come out that day. Maybe they'd been at work. They hadn't seen the news. They were going there. But this is few days after the fact. People do know what the situation is now. And yet he is still coming out and getting cheers. But, I'm seeing people in the chat today being like, Vince has done nothing wrong. He's going to get through this. It's every right. It's still his show. He can come out, be there all he wants. So like there is like this cultish atmosphere behind it.
Well, the thing is right, it's that, yes, he has a legal right to be on this show, of course. That's not what anyone's arguing. It's arguing whether it's in any way appropriate that he's putting himself out there for the only reason being, basically, him, as you say, stroking his own ego. And I think also, from a publicity perspective, he knows that these people are going to cheer for him. And he wants to show this image of Vince McMahon, this loved man, and the audience, when they're cheering for him, they are 100% advocating everything that he's like being alleged of having done. It's weird. It's so weird, and it's weird that it's working as well. Like, you know, that the audience are playing along with this and going like, "Yeah, we support you, Vince. You're great." No, no, he's not.
But, you know, like we've seen this with Vince over the years anyway, because like, hey, he released a bunch of people during a pandemic. Like, you know, he was doing a lot of bad business deals with Saudi Arabia. Like, you know, the Saudi Arabian government murdered a journalist, and like they're still doing deals with him and everything. But yet people will always cheer McMahon because there is this sort of like cultish atmosphere behind him and the company as a whole. And it's very, very well. But, you know, he is a man who has always displayed narcissistic behavior, and this just feels like very, very narcissistic behavior of just like, I like people cheering me, so I am going to go out there and do this. So I suppose the question can come is because, you know, I am seeing a lot of people being like, he's got every right to be on the show. He should be on the show. It's his company, even though technically he's not the CEO anymore, so it's not really his company. He's not running the company anymore. Like, you know, maybe he should take a step back, maybe just sort of like lay low for a little while. No, if you want to go out there and you want to be on this show, absolutely. If you feel like you have to go out there, 100% do it. Have a reason to go out there. Like, book yourself into a storyline. You're in charge of creative. Like, you'll still have that charge. Like, do something. Like, go out there and then make an announcement. Go out there and announce a match for the main event. Have a reason to be out there. Going out there and saying something we already know is a waste of TV time. And this is already a show that's full with a lot of crap that is there just to be filler. The last thing we need is more filler on this stuff. You could have cut this segment and added another 5-7 minutes to Ciampa AJ Styles, a match that probably would have been really good with another 5-7 minutes. So like, if you're going to do it, have a reason to be doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and the fact that he doesn't have a reason shows that his true motivations have nothing to do with the quality of the show. It's all about him. It's all about him showing, look, I'm totally unaffected by this. Look at how powerful I am. Look at how great I am. Even when I'm in my potentially worst moment in my whole career, I can come out here. Everyone will cheer me, and everyone loves me even so. It's all for his own ego. It's all for his self-image, and probably to help him with his upcoming investigation. And the fact that he keeps on coming out like this, and he has looked happier in these two segments than I have ever seen Vince McMahon in my whole life. It's mad. Like, he shouldn't really. Yeah, for me, I you know, if I was in any way involved in the creative WWE, I'd be like, you aren't staying, you aren't going on this show at all. But let alone smiling, being happy, and just saying random stuff, and then leaving.
Like, the reports coming out from Sean Ross Sapp over at FightfulSelect.com that was like, you know, at SmackDown, he was, I think the quote was, he was practically jovial backstage, and, you know, he's laughing, he's smiling, he's no selling any of this. And like, you're right, like, this could be, you know, this is the first time in 40 years that he has not been the CEO of WWE. This is like, I think a lot of people kind of play down like some of what's going on, but this is big. This is a big deal. And should the board come back and say that he did act inappropriately by using companies' money to raise the salary of this paralegal because he had started a sexual relation with her, and they deem that he's not fit for purpose anymore, that's it. Like, he could be gone. This could be the end of McMahon in WWE. So like, this could be a big deal. And yeah, I think people are sort of just being like, oh, you know, it's Vince, isn't he? Like, it's just Vince being Vince just going out there and doing a thing. But like, it makes me feel really weird. I don't know what it is about the show, but like, I was so mad into this show after that Fatal 5-Way opener, because I thought the Fatal 5-Way opener was so cool. I thought it was a really, really awesome match, and I was really having a good time with it. And this just kind of took the wind out of my sails. And I was like, I don't really know what the purpose of any of this is other than Vince going out there and kind of like some politicians that we have just being like, I've done nothing wrong. I'm the victim in all of this. Just like I was the victim in the steroid trial in the early 90s. I was the person that they came after. Like, I'm the victim here. You should all feel sorry for me. And it just makes me feel really, I said in my review, a bit icky. Like, I don't know what the best way to describe it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it makes me think that this boardroom investigation is going to be less about the actual appropriateness of this relationship and whether this money was put forward, and whether Vince McMahon being part of WWE will harm the brand more than him not being a part of WWE. And this is Vince essentially making the argument, well, it doesn't affect me being a part of WWE, doesn't affect the brand, so you may as well keep me around because I've been running the company for the whole time. I think Vince knows his board and knows that they're not going to really investigate this. What they really care about is what people think about the company. And that makes me very sad.
It is. It's also kind of bizarre. I mean, maybe we're going slightly off tangent here. We're kind of talking about things that people have already talked about over the weekend and stuff, but it is, you know, like the whole reason he has stepped down is because the story came out. Like, if this had been I am stepping down because of an investigation is going on to him, he'd have stepped down when the investigation started, which was around WrestleMania season. The only reason he stepped down is because this came public and it became a news story, and they had to do something. And putting Stephanie McMahon in position, even though she'd left last month, was really like we're under investigation for quote, passing a woman around like a toy. Put a woman in charge because that's really good PR for us. So there's all these sort of like, you know, optics and stuff. I was invited onto a law and crime podcast that has, I'm going to brag here, 3 million subscribers.
What?
I know. They reached out to us and said, do you want to come onto our podcast and talk about this? And I was like, absolutely. I was like, do you need me to talk about the legal stuff? And they're like, no. We have got that bit covered. We need you to explain to us what the hell this man is and like what's going on here. And I was like, oh, that bit I can do. That's the easy bit. Like, that's the bit I'm good at.
I don't have a law degree. Don't bring me on for that, please.
Absolutely not. No, but it was really kind of eye-opening for me to speak to someone who is kind of like involved in the law side of things, but not in the wrestling side of things. To be like, he came out on a show when he's under investigation, and I was told they're like, yeah, of course he did. Yeah, it's the most Vince McMahon thing you could possibly do. Of course he did. Of course he did absolutely. That. Yeah, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he do that? Why wouldn't he do that? But like, you know, this on SmackDown, I get it. Ratings bump. Here, it's not. This was not because this was unadvertised. So this really is just, I want to go out there and just get the adulation from this crowd that I know I'm going to get. And man, it was just it felt really, really weird. And I honestly think it's a complete waste of TV time. And you know, like, he'll probably do it again on SmackDown. And then he'll do it again on Raw after that, and on SmackDown again after that, and we'll just keep ongoing, and we'll just keep this until the investigation is over, and then whether he becomes a TV character again or whether he just steps back and just goes back to what he was doing previously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just what was this podcast that you're on? Can you say what the name of it is?
I can do, yeah. So it was Law and Crime Network. So in today's WrestleTalk news, it's linked to in the video description. It's available on Apple and Spotify, and it was on YouTube as well. I'm in the second half of the episode because it was like they talked about a couple of things. There's some like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp stuff, and then I think there was some Bill Cosby stuff in the middle, and then there was me talking about Vince McMahon of all people. So yes, I'm on there for like sort of 7 minutes. I actually had a grand old time. It was really nice chatting with them.
I'm going to listen to it after the show. That'd be grand. Well,
thank you all so much. I'm sure there's a link to it being posted in the chat if anyone wants to go and check that out. Yes, anyway, so let's get into your Ultra Chats about this situation, because I imagine people have got some thoughts on this. If you want to join the conversation, it is WrestleTalk.com/support. I have seen that the chat has been a bit spicy, so it is always worth remembering. Everyone has a different opinion on this. If you disagree with my opinion, that's absolutely fine. Like, that's absolutely, if you think this is a great thing to do, have a grand old time. Just let's not all be dicks about this in the comment. I wouldn't be a dick about any of your opinions, so let's not be dicks. Have a great time. Let's all just enjoy the conversation and have a responsible conversation about this.
Yes.
Though I would argue, if your point is it's his show, he can do whatever he wants, I would have a point. Just go there for an actual reason. Anyway, Hannah Allen says, lovely gents. Pete and Tempest pretty much summed up how I feel about this Vince stuff. What he's doing now is pathologically and honestly insane. We've always known this, but he should not have this platform to self-promote and stroke his ego. Garbage. Supporting this man by continually giving up a platform for him to flex makes me sick. Something that does make me happy. Well done on the Monday Night War and CBW. Hilarious. Thanks you for contributing joy and happiness into the world. Lots of love. Jam that jam. Yeah, big weekend for you and I, because we had not only had the finale of CBW, but the finale of the Monday Night War last night.
Yes, I loved Monday Night War. It was great. It's such a good series. I really hope there's a series 2 because
me too.
I genuinely thought maybe you'll have a chance of pulling it back, and then when I saw your card, I was like, "This isn't gonna happen."
A disastrous final episode for me, honestly. Me and Pete recorded a podcast. Spoilers for Monday Night War, by the way, if you haven't seen the final episode. But me and Pete recorded a podcast that went out for our Patreon backers, kind of talking about the process of making it and the possibility of a second series and all this. And one of the questions was like, Pete, when did you know you'd won? Pete was like, about 3 weeks before the final show. I was like, as soon as I got that veto card, I was like, that's it, I'm done. I've got this in the bag. Yeah. That's when I knew as well. Charles Berg said, so Vince comes out looking like a wax sculpture of himself, jovial as ever. I think I know why. Because in this maniac's warped mind, he thinks the biggest takeaway from this investigation is he can still perform at his age, and we're all super impressed. That was interesting. So when I did that podcast yesterday, they asked me, it's like, what's fans' perspective of, like, fans' perception of Vince? And I was like, I think like hardcore wrestling fans, particularly, going by the sort of reactions that we get and stuff, it's just like, Vince should retire. Vince is this, Vince is that, bad creative, makes a bad product, fires people over a pandemic, this, that, and the other. And yet then he goes and has a match at WrestleMania, and the reaction there was like, God, it's Vince though, isn't it? Like, what a wacky old man he is. Just like, it's Vince McMahon. Like, and we do have this very bizarre relationship with Vinnie Mac.
Yeah, he's like a horrible granddad. It's just like most of the time you're like, God, no, but the things that he says and does are terrible, but he is crazy. He's so wacky.
Whacker, it's Vince McMahon.
And in those moments, we're just like, we forget everything else. We just go, oh yeah, I don't mind about the Saudi Arabia deal. I don't mind about firing people.
He takes that terrible stunner, and all of those years, it just all got washed away. She's like, did you see that stunner cell? How awful it was.
It's amazing. He's got a very good ability of doing that.
Raya Diaz says, hey, yo. So on SmackDown, McMahon opened the show and said nothing. Last night, McMahon comes out to tell us stuff we already know. This is either a flex showing us he doesn't stress the current issue, or he's having his own farewell tour and needs the ego boost. It's either ridiculous or kind of sad. Also, I feel icky when you use the word stroke in a sentence involving Vince. But seriously, what a waste of time. Hi, Sullivan. Jam that jam.
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy into this whole retirement, like, because people are saying sort of like a farewell tour or a retirement tour or things like that. It doesn't feel that way.
No, I don't think Vince has any plans to ever retire in his life. I think if Vince's dream is to run WWE for all time, living as a cyborg creative monster where he's replaced every part of his body, and so he now can just run WWE creative for all time. That's his dream. He never wants to retire. There
is a Twilight Zone episode, and its name is escaping me now, so I'm hoping someone's going to be able to tell me in the chat, because otherwise it's going to drive me insane. And I think I've got the plot of this right. It's a daughter whose father is this awful man. It might be a grandfather. Awful man. Always bossing her around the house. She cooks and cleans for him and everything like that. He then dies. I can't quite remember how he dies. But the big twist of the episode is he had his conscience put into a robot. So then the robot is just ordering her around the house and stuff. And you just mentioned that. I was like, is Vince going to like put his conscience into a computer?
And
like,
now welcome Vince McMahon's brain.
It's Mr. McMahon. That's a little like massive 50s style robot comes out with like doodly dials on it and stuff. Thank you, Andy. It's called Uncle Simon. Thank you so much. I knew that's why I love our chat. I knew someone would be there straight with it. Dart Train, hello lads. I love being able to listen to you guys when I'm having a bad day. I tested positive for the Rona. Sullivan, I also don't know why they cheer for VKM. It's why I only watch AEW. I can't support VKM or their gross corporate habits. If Vince coming out results in a few talented, underused people requesting releases, then them being granted it, so be it. This S company. Pritchard is not helping things either. Also, New Japan was fun tonight. A great return happened this pod feels pandemic era. It does, I suppose, but we're sort of like different windows to each other.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It must be, it's kind of almost retro. Eventually it's going to come back and be cool.
But also, sorry to hear that you tested positive. That really sucks.
Yes.
So stay safe and get healthy soon. Ten Rosa said, oh no, we've got that one. Nicholas Wong said, the public face of a corporation appears on TV, essentially telling everyone to ignore the controversy about him because we need him. Is this WWE or an episode of The Boys with Homelander ranting that he's the hero? Oh dear. I thought it was Cody, but actually it's Vince. Legit Underboss said, how much money would you bet that Vince will make his NXT debut tonight?
If he does, that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, that's it. Like, that's when he's taking things too far. Like, he's just showing up at 2.0. And Tom Evans says, I don't know about you guys, but it felt awkward after Vince came out. It felt as though I was supporting him by watching the product. They should have just kept him away, in my opinion. Jam that jam. Tom, that's kind of what I would say as well. Like, that's kind of where I sit on the subject. But hell, you can get in your chat. You can get in your thoughts at WrestleTalk.com/support while we talk about the rest of this episode of Monday Night Raw, which opened with, man, what is happening with the wrestling world? Everyone's getting injured at the moment. Like, every single toy's having their squeaker removed and are just sort of being put on the shelf.
It's terrible. And it feels like in like 5 or 6 months, we're going to have like 1,000 returns. I feel very sad for Rhea Ripley. That was going to be a great match against her and Bianca Belair. Real shame.
Yeah, it is a real shame. So Bianca Belair came out to announce that Rhea Ripley is injured. She's not going to be medically cleared to compete at Money in the Bank, so they're going to crown a new number one contender to her title in a fatal five-way between Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Carmella, Asuka, and Becky Lynch. And then each of them came out to do the interrupting promo who gimmick, and then it resulted in a match. So I thought that the lineup was bizarre because two of them were already in Money in the Bank. Liv Morgan essentially said, I would trade in my Money in the Bank spots for a shot at the title. I'm like, stay in Money in the Bank. That's a much better idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you win Money in the Bank, you're almost guaranteed to win the title.
Absolutely. Your odds are hugely increased if you win Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
It's just when you decide you want to win the title.
And also, I feel like this is, Liv's second chance of becoming number one contender in like the last 3 weeks. So you'll probably get another chance at one of these matches down the line. So stick with your Money in the Bank plan, and another one of these will crop up in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. But yeah, it was a fairly decent opening segment. But the match itself, Alexa Bliss versus Liv Morgan versus Carmella versus Asuka versus Becky Lynch, was absolutely awesome. Yeah. Crowd were quiet at the start, but like they really, really picked up towards the end of this, and it was so good.
Yes, absolutely. It was one of those matches where it felt like chaos, but it was actually just really well put together. It was really, really well thought out, really, really good stuff. And like it was, you had like, even though and I saw your Raw review earlier on the news, and it was, you made the point of like, Carmella, felt like the person who was probably going to win this because everyone else has stuff to do. It was I still like I every single near fall I was still going like, maybe Becky Lynch is going to win. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay, right, that's fine. And then then it would be stopped again, and I was excited throughout. It was great.
Really, really good match. The Hurricane Rana, like the top rope Hurricane Rana spot into almost like a senton onto Liv Morgan, I thought was absolutely spectacular stuff. And I thought Becky and Asuka were awesome in this match. Like, just they felt like they just kept canceling each other out. Yeah. So like anytime one of them was getting an advantage, they would just cancel each other out. And Becky getting so many near falls and having those near falls taken away from her just really furthers that character of like, where is my one-on-one rematch for this title? And every opportunity just keeps getting taken away from it, and it's kind of adding to this downward spiral. And I just thought that stuff was really, really good.
Yes, absolutely. Her portrayal of this character is really, really fun. She's absolutely brilliant at portraying someone who is slowly becoming more and more unhinged because of her never quite getting that title back, and it's and not getting that title shot now. It's just it's great.
Yeah. I thought this was so good. And then after the match, so Carmella won. She hit a super kick on Liv Morgan for the win. I think as a pick, it does make the most sense because the other four are kind of like busy doing other stuff. My only issue with this is that it does feel like a massive step down from Rhea Ripley. Now, there were a few people who kind of took me up on this in the edited review, being like, well, you're always banging on about them trying to create some new styles and push some new faces, but now they're doing that and you're kind of complaining. It's like, well, you can, like, there's not one or the other. You could have built Carmella up over the last few weeks of like winning some matches and stuff, because she hasn't had a match since April. And like the last time we saw her, she was dicking around with 24/7 stuff. So like she doesn't feel like she is a top level person, which is why I made the comparison to Akira Tozawa. Like she doesn't feel like she is on Rhea Ripley or Bianca Belair or Becky Lynch's level. She feels so further down the card. You could have risen her back up, done some weeks of booking to make her feel important again, so that when she wins this match, it feels like a big time matchup between Bella and Carmella. Whereas it currently stands now, it just feels like it's going to be a throwaway match at the pay-per-view.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like, I think we all thought that Bianca Belair was probably going to retain her title anyway, but now we really know that that's going to happen. And it's difficult, I suppose, from WWE's perspective, because I'm guessing this injury just happened with Rhea Ripley. But they should have built up Carmella a little bit more than just bringing her on now after like 3 months of not even being on the show. Like I haven't watched that much SmackDown in the last few months, and so I just presumed she was on SmackDown.
She's been moved across.
Oh, well, that must have happened at some point. I don't know.
Kind of in the same way, hey, Big E just got moved across and no one said anything. Like, it's probably a similar situation.
Yeah. These things happen just in the night. A random statement will be done. And you're like, okay, all right. They've moved. And I thought that had happened with Carmella. So I was surprised to see her in the first place. And then when she won, I was like, all right, okay. It's just an opponent.
When Becky's shouting at Adam Pearce backstage, and then he basically said like, "Oh, by the way, you were supposed to face Asuka for a spot in the Money in the Bank." She was like, "Oh yeah, I was." And then Adam Pearce was like, "I'm just going to rebook that main event, and you're going to do it tonight." And I was like, "Okay, cool, fine." Grand.
And Becky was entirely reasonable, going like, "What is going on?" I was like, that is fair, because if that was how my boss dealt with me, I'd be fuming.
We then got all the Vince McMahon stuff. One of, actually, I think this might have been the second or third big recap of Brock's return on SmackDown. Brock Glass in case of emergency. Randy Orton's out, so we called Lesnar instead. But it was a case of just like, here's the really big storyline in WWE, but that's on the other show. You're watching the B show right now.
100%. It's so odd, so surreal to see Raw be basically just a B show.
And it's 3 hours. It's a 3-hour B show.
Why do they do this to us?
So long to be a B show. It was fine when SmackDown was the B show. It's only 2 hours. Like, it was really easy to watch. Raw at 3 hours, not good. Then I thought this was also odd as well. So Riddle comes out and cuts a promo and talks about, he's going to win Money in the Bank and it's going to get him a shot at the title. And I was like, but the whole stakes behind your match against Roman on Friday was that if you didn't win, you couldn't challenge for the belt again. So why are you now being booked in a match where you could possibly get a Money in the Bank match and have an 85% chance of winning the belt when you face Roman for the belt? Like, why does Riddle get a qualifier here?
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter anyway because he didn't win. He got very easily beaten by Omos. Lots of boring bear hugs. I think this is probably the most heat that he's ever got, though, which is partly down to everyone really liking Riddle.
Yes.
But yeah, Omos in Money in the Bank doesn't. I don't like the sound of that much.
This is the thing. I thought, oh well, they put themselves in one of those situations that WWE always do, where they book a match and then they go, oh, there's no good options as to who wins. What do we do? And I was thinking, okay, well maybe they're gonna put Omos over because otherwise you have Omos losing continually. He's a giant and he loses to an injured Riddle. That's not great. But also at the same time, Omos in a ladder match sounds terrible.
I feel like they're going to do that spot where he takes a step onto the ladder rung and it breaks. So like they have to go get like an ooper duper ladder out to like. So yeah,
yep.
I'm sure they'll have some spots in there, but hey, I'd rather Riddle in the match, even though it doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
But afterwards, Seth Rollins came out and attacked him, and then Rollins cut this promo on Riddle saying that he's going to win Money in the Bank and he's going to cash in a Roman because he's the only one that has got Roman's number, and then stomped Riddle into the ground afterwards. That sets up a program between Riddle and Rollins, which I think is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. I think that could be a really, really good program.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully they don't do it for 3 months like they did with Cody. Hopefully they just do it for a normal length of time because they're both great and they'll do really well.
Oh, sweet, sweet Sullivan Brown. Sweet, naive Sullivan Brown.
What do you mean, Gav? It'll be over by the next pay-per-view, I'm sure.
They'll just do one pay-per-view cycle and then move on to new things.
Both characters will have changed, but and we'll have new arcs to explore.
Oh, maybe. So speaking of things that are, similar to previous weeks, Theory basically did the pose down again. He just came out and just did the exact pose down thing he did last week. Only Bobby sprayed baby oil in his face this time. I thought the payoff was good when Theory was taking the selfie and Bobby was behind him. I thought that was actually quite a good reveal for Theory. I thought that was fun.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so a good payoff, but it wasn't like I don't know if I needed to see Austin Theory flexed trapezoids or whatever they're called. Like I don't think while in with the Britney Spears microphone and stuff, I don't think I need to see this 2 weeks in a row.
No. I don't know if we needed to see it 1 week in a row. I've written that was stupid fun is what I've written as my note for this.
Great way to describe it. Stupid fun.
I like it's so odd the pose down the week before. But I don't know why they did it again, but I liked the almost pantomime-esque moment of
he's behind you. Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
Got a recap of Judgment Day kicking Edge out of their group. They've not been on TV since, and they were on Main Event this week.
Oh, no.
I know. I had that reaction as well. I got into the office and Andy said, did you see that Judgment Day were on Main Event? I was like, oh, no. Oh, not Main Event.
Why would they do that to them?
Could have had that. It was Judgment Day versus the Mysterions. Could have put that in place of Vince McMahon stroking his ego.
100%.
Also, apparently, on Main Event, spoilers for the 2 people in the chat that may care about Main Event results, Doudrop is the 24/7 champion now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but also, no, get her out of that. Get her out of it.
Also, no, not Doudrop.
She's really good. She shouldn't be doing that. But I'm glad she's got a championship. That's nice.
Yes, yeah, that is. Do you know what? That's exactly what Adam said in the office. He was like, "Well, at least Viper has a belt now." Like, yeah, I suppose
that's something.
Backstage, Theory said that Lashley doesn't deserve a shot at the US title, so he booked him in a gauntlet match where he has to beat 3 guys in a row to get the US title match at Money in the Bank. And then the Usos came out for a promo and they talked for a little bit. And then the Street Profits came out and sort of answered and they chatted for a little bit. And I was like, Craig, and I kind of went back on my notes and I was thinking, like, why am I not feeling a lot of this show? And it can't just be the Vince stuff. So I went back and I looked. The opening segment was a lot of talking, featured 6 people cutting promos. Then we had a match. Then we had Becky Lynch cutting a promo. Then Vince McMahon cut a promo. Then Riddle cut a promo. Then MVP cut a promo. And then Riddle and Moss had a short match. Then Rollins attacked Riddle and cut a promo while doing it. Then Theory had a promo. And then we got a recap package. Then Theory had a promo backstage. Then the Usos had a promo. And the Street Profits had a promo. And then the next segment I found for this is the concert with Elias doing a lot of talking. And I was like, bloody hell. This is so much talking on this episode.
It was very talky. I don't know why anyone did, why everyone felt the need, or we're about to do a match. We must have a little chat though before.
It's filling time. It really does feel like they've mapped out a show and we're like, well, we've got a 7-minute match here, but when we mapped out, there's still 45 minutes we need to fill here of times. Like, well, we'll have everyone just gets to cut a promo beforehand. Yeah, and it was just so much talking. I was really ready for a match, and what we ended up was Angelo Dawkins versus Jey Uso in a 3-minute match.
Yes,
and Dawkins won.
Yep, and it was just one of those things where you're like, okay, I guess they're giving a few wins to the Street Profits because they're going to lose on the pay-per-view. And like, you can't have it, you can't have them losing before the pay-per-view either. That also makes it obvious that they're going to lose on the pay-per-view. Maybe you should build up your tag teams a bit better so it's not obvious who is definitely going to win and lose on the pay-per-view. Because at the moment, it is pretty predictable to me.
One of the benefits of doing these shows from home, Sullivan Bo Brown, is that I get to highlight chats, which I don't really get to do on the live show. It's a bit harder to do. But there are some chats I did want to highlight here because they really made me laugh. This one from Mr. Tomato. Judgment Day just got turned into Judge Midday.
Very good.
Very good. Charles Berg, we're talking about the chat. It was exposition heavy with very little exposition. That's a key aspect of this. So much talking and not a lot is said.
Absolutely. So much recap over what just happened. What just happened?
Literally what just happened. And then William here, like this one, can't get injured if everyone cuts promos.
To be fair, the wrestling world is going through an injury crisis for some reason.
Yeah.
So that is fair. I also saw someone talking about our cyborg Vince McMahon earlier in the chat who decided to call him Vince McMahon, and I really enjoyed that.
Oh, we've got some very talented people who watch this show. I want to see a drawing of Vince McMahon. That's a character for CBW Series 3. When we get to the Colossal Tussle, when we get to that the Russell, that is Vince McMahon.
Incredible! I can't wait.
Having said that, though, I mean, you've got to bring back Sob Ross. He was so over. Everyone loved Sob Ross Sullivan.
He was so lovable. My God, Sob Ross.
I got a text message from my friend Ash today that said, I loved Sob Ross. I thought it was tremendous. And I was like, everyone in the office hated Sob Ross. Because...
The thing is that if you spend any time with Sob Ross, you just hear him just moaning for ages about his sad life. It's hard to love him.
It might have also helped as well that everyone just got to see the edited version of the Battle Royal, whereas the real life version of the Battle Royal, no joke, was 90 minutes long. It took us so long.
Because It was ridiculous. Nobody would get eliminated.
No one could get eliminated with 6 players doing that battle royal. Bloody hell. It took us 90 minutes to record. At the end of it, Adam was just like, guys, we really need to wrap through this. We've already started 3 hours late.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh.
So, speaking of fun nonsense, last week, Ezekiel said, my brother Elias is going to be on Raw next week. And we were all sitting there being like, I wonder how they're going to do this. Will Zeke just come out and be like, oh, I'm really sorry, but Elias is stuck in traffic. He can't make it to the building. Would he just grow a beard in the week, like the week that they're not there, and just come out as Elias and we won't have Zeke on the show? No, we actually got the best version of this. Camera trickery and a glue-on beard.
Absolutely brilliant. I love this. I love this so much.
So good. Like they have a backstage segment together where they sit on a very long couch to make the camera trickery all the bit easier. And had a conversation with each other about their parents and about his debut on Raw and about how Elias is happy to be back. Oh my God, this was so much fun.
It's brilliant. It's pitched so perfectly where like their conversations are like 2 genuine brothers really loving each other.
Yeah.
And it's really great. It's absolutely fantastic. And when it goes to his concert, which I think does that happen?
That's the next segment.
Yeah, literally the next segment, isn't it? So he's going and doing the concert, having Kevin Owens pointing at everything that a fan at home would be thinking, which is like, oh well, obviously they've done camera trickery there and like things like that. That is just brilliant because no one believes it.
So I guess this in the world of WWE, Ezekiel is his younger brother. They aren't the same person. He legit is just the younger brother of Elias.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Good. It's good to know. And it was just, I thought it was really fun. And like the Elias beard was the perfect, like, because it was a really well executed fake beard. But obvious enough that it was still a fake beard.
Yes.
Like it was really, really well done. Yeah. This was such silly nonsense, and I really, really enjoyed it.
It was my favorite of all of the talky bits. This was by far my favorite talky bit.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So Elias literally tries to do a concert, and Kevin Owens comes out before it starts and said, this is all just effects, and then said, I saw a movie last week that had a dinosaur in it. This is possible.
Great sauce. Great sauce.
Absolutely. And then, Elias is in the ring. Ezekiel appears on the Titantron just to say, no, look, that's just my brother. And Kevin Owens' face during all this was amazing. And Elias sings a song about Kevin Owens being a liar. And I was like, this story is going nowhere, but this is a very fun segment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so brilliant. And at what point? Because later on in the show, they talk about how there's the third brother. But I don't even remember that happening in the thing because I think I was laughing too much. I actually was laughing out loud.
It came from Kevin Owens, Kevin Owens, he gets kneed in the face by Elias, and then he goes backstage and he trips over when he comes backstage as well. And he's just like, my face hurt because he kneed me. I just tripped over. That's also Elias's fault. And then Ezekiel walks up to him, and Kevin Owens is freaking out even more. And he challenges either Elias, Ezekiel, or their other brother Elrod to a match next week.
What does Elrod look like? Because I hope it's Elrod. I really hope that Elrod comes out. I don't know what he looks like.
He was on the graphic. There's every chance it's Elrod. I hope it's Elrod.
What's he gonna? Because they've got the beard, they've got the no beard. What have you got in between? I don't know.
I get a goatee, maybe. Like it's the middle portion.
Yeah, a moustache, an eye patch. Who
it.
knows what it'll be? I love it. I think they all play their parts beautifully. And I mean, I say they all, there's only 2 people. In reality, there's only 2 people, but they all play their parts beautifully. And it's just great. I loved it.
I love this. We had Who Wants to Walk with Elias? Who Wants to Speak with Zeke? And as Aero Links has got here, Who wants to trod with Elrod?
Yes.
Love it.
Oh.
We then got the Bobby Lashley Gauntlet match. He took on Chad Gable and then Otis. I think did both matches end in DQ? Because he got like the hurt lock onto Chad Gable and then Otis jumped in the ring, but I wasn't sure if Chad had already tapped or whether Otis caused the DQ. The second match was definitely a DQ win,
yes.
but I wasn't sure.
I think the first one, I felt like he tapped in the first one, and then Otis came in straight away after he tapped. Right. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. Yeah. But yeah, so like Alpha Academy both got beats, and then they started beating him up afterwards. And then I thought this actually was a really nice touch here, which is that Austin Theory was the third guy in the Gauntlet. So he comes down and already beating up Bobby Lashley. You know, the crowd like, boo, Bobby, Bobby, Bobby. And then Theory beats him down and beats him down, beats him down. And Bobby Lashley gets a really sweet inside cradle from out of nowhere for the win. So he gets his match at Money in the Bank. And they were putting over on commentaries like, that was Bobby Lashley at 60%. What's going to happen with Austin Theory when Bobby Lashley is at 100% at Money in the Bank? Yeah, I thought this was very simple but effective storytelling.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I really liked having the champion as the final one. You don't really see that usually.
Yeah.
Unless it's sort of like pre-announced as like, you've got to beat all these guys and then beat me. And yeah, I for me, because it was a roll up as well, wasn't it? So it wasn't like it was a sneaky win that he had to get because he was in such pain from the previous matches. I genuinely don't know who wins this match on the pay-per-view, and that's when I'm most excited, is where I think actually either one could win this, and I think it probably will be Theory, because I think they'll want to stick it on Theory for longer, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bobby won. And yeah, I like this. I don't know why Alpha Academy are like Ciampa, just working for other heels, but you know,
whatever. I think I can see Austin Theory retaining, because I would think they're going to do Theory Cena at SummerSlam, for the US title. But yeah, so I could see that, but then I guess maybe just do a lame DQ finisher, because I don't think Theory is pinning Bobby Lashley at Money in the Bank. Hey, I mean, if they do, what a great way to like build him some credibility. That'd be amazing.
Absolutely.
I thought this was actually quite a fun little segment. I thought it protected Theory as well, because it was like a surprise roll-up victory. Like, I don't think Theory lost anything in this loss. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Belair cut a promo backstage and Carmella attacked her from behind. And then we got Miz TV with AJ Styles. And it's every Miz TV segment you've ever seen. I cannot say anything else about Miz TV segments. People can rag on me in the comments. I didn't like a Miz segments. It doesn't do anything for me.
No, because ultimately he always brings out a guest. He and the guest don't get along.
Or if they're heels, they do.
They do. And then they'll talk about how they don't get along with the face, and then the face might come out and mess things up. But in this case, AJ is a baby face, so they don't get along. He says he's got tiny balls like a popcorn, and then they have a little bit of a fight.
And then they did, and Ciampa attacked AJ afterwards, and like they were putting this over on commentary because Miz was then out for commentary for the Ciampa match, and I kind of phrased the question last week as why Miz was out there for the Ciampa Riddle match, and I was like, why is Miz involved in all of this Riddle stuff? And actually, I think I missed the bigger picture there, which is it's more that Miz is involved in all the Ciampa stuff, or Ciampa's involved in all the Miz stuff, and they're kind of sort of telling this story that Ciampa is like a hired gun for the Miz, which I actually think is quite a fun little character for Ciampa to be this hired gun. But it's like, but the Miz is he's not acknowledging that, because he's like, I've never had a conversation with Ciampa in my life. Like I've never spoken to this man. He's clearly got a lot of upside and a lot of potential, but I don't know him personally. I don't know why he keeps getting involved in all of my things. So I think that could be a fun little story to tell here. I would argue though that Ciampa's a terrible hired gun because he loses every single week.
Yeah, you need anyone else to be a hired gun, because
you need a better hired gun, Miz.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, he could well be like a really good hired gun. It's a good way to introduce him potentially if he was winning these matches. And then you have him turning on Miz. It's a shame because it feels like they're not taking advantage of the fact that Ciampa, it's a pretty good promo. He can really talk, and they're not really taking advantage of that so much. I don't really know what they're doing with Ciampa. It's very confusing. And Miz going, "We've never spoken. I don't know who he is."
This lad that keeps showing up in all my segments.
Keeps on beating up people that I don't like, I guess, but I don't know who he is.
But this was AJ Styles versus Tommaso Ciampa, so like it was good for the time that they had. I wish they had more time because I think these two could put on of course they could put on an absolutely banging match. We didn't quite get that here, but AJ wins and then he lays out Miz after the match too. So I guess Miz and AJ are now feuding, which feels like a real big step down for AJ after the Edge stuff. Like this just feels like a real fall from grace for him, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I think that they're doing this because AJ needs a win. My God, he needs a win. I mean, if he the last time he won was in Money in the Bank last year, so he needs to win at least in this, in terms of on pay-per-view, that is.
Yeah.
And so it's like he needs to win this pay-per-view match. I don't know if they're having a pay-per-view match. It wasn't like necessary, but I guess
they haven't announced as much yet. No, because I mean AJ's not in Money in the Bank, and I don't Miz isn't either. So like maybe they'll do something at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it might be a thing where they are just giving him a win. They know that Miz can take that loss, and that's fine. Just to sort of go like, all right, no, AJ isn't the worst wrestler in the world. He's actually pretty good and hasn't deserved this losing streak.
We've got a recap of Veer versus the Mysterions, and then Veer cut a promo with Kevin. Didn't really say a whole deal. Just said Veer, and that was it.
It's a weird promo. Very odd.
And then we had our main event of Becky Lynch versus Asuka. Of course, it was a great match. I mean, look, I've got this. I can't really complain. This was a great match because Becky Lynch is awesome and Asuka is awesome, and they had a really, really great match together. And it's ultra nitpicky of me, and I do appreciate that. And like, please feel free to call me out on it. But I've seen them wrestle 6 times in the last 7 weeks, and twice on this show. Like, it's just, I kind of want this to feel like a bigger deal than it does. Like I want this to feel more special than it does.
Yes.
And it's always good, but like imagine if you got to see this match every few months or whatever it is, and like so you're like, oh my God, I get to see that match again. Can't wait to see that. Like, and you split them off into various different things. I just think them constantly wrestling each other. Like I feel like they've had 4 Raw main events recently, and it's just I'm not sick of watching them wrestle, but I worry that this is going to diminish the specialness of Becky Lynch versus Asuka.
Definitely. I mean, they were in a match together earlier on this show, so it's like it's always good stuff. It's always good matches, but this is a continual problem with WWE is that they just do the same matches again and again and again, and they don't feel like, for some reason, they seem to have it in their mind that the way that you build a feud between 2 people is just make them fight over and over and over again until there's a certain point where you eventually stop fighting. But it's like if you wanted to do like a series of pay-per-view matches between them over like many months and all the other, then maybe, yes, that could be very exciting if you do it in the right way, but not every week. It's a shame. And like Asuka winning makes sense. It plays into Becky's character really nicely. No complaints about the match. No complaints about
the match. Match was great. And I think Asuka winning is the right call as well, because Asuka, she goes into Money in the Bank and Becky has another loss. And that continues the downward spiral for Becky. So I thought it was completely the right call to make. Overall, as a show, it was weird because I gave this episode 2 out of 5 in the edited review. Now that I've kind of talked about it a little more, I don't know if that feels unfair, because I really did enjoy all the Elias stuff for how silly it all was, and I thought the opening 5-way was really great. But it's like I think the Vince thing just did kind of take the wind out of my sails a little bit, and I've had to feel like a real down view of this show.
Yes.
So I think I am sticking with 2 out of 5, but it's kind of like the higher end of a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair. I think I like this the thing is that this Vince thing, I think you kind of have to give it 2 out of 5 at the most, because with that Vince stuff, it's just horrible. Like the way that they're doing it, it's horrible. It's inappropriate. It's not nice. And this show had lots of positive qualities, but to be honest, like they're bringing down what could be ultimately a strong, like, you know, that was probably like a 3 out of 5 show without the Vince stuff. Maybe even a high 3 out of 5. But with the Vince stuff, I think 2 out of 5 is entirely fair.
Yeah, I think, and also it being 3 hours long, like it's too. I mean, yeah. Hey, hot take, everyone. 3 hours of Raw is too long, but it just when it's mid 2000s SmackDown or like early 2010 SmackDown, where it really was the B show, and like when Raw was Raw Super Show that had both Raw and SmackDown stars on it, and SmackDown was just for SmackDown lads and lasses, and it was just like there's no point in watching SmackDown. It's kind of like what Raw feels like at the moment, and I that makes it very hard then when the show is 3 hours long to kind of keep invested in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we are going to open up the poll now. If Mod Mother Jenna is there, can we put up a poll for what you thought of Raw, so rating it out between 1 and 4? We'll have that poll up very, very shortly for you to all vote, and we'll have the results for that in the outro portion of this show. However, we have got to shout out some very special people, those being our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Oh, Sullivan, what a week we've got coming up on Patreon. I mean, we've talked about CBW, the final backstage podcast, yourself, Adam, and Tom talking about the series overall, and that final episode of CBW. Great listen. Talking about each match individually, kind of talking about them from a character perspective. I thought it was a really, really fascinating podcast. So you can go check that out. Pete and I dropped a hour-long chat about Monday Night War and how we made the show, and real like backstage in, like we go deep into sort of the analytics of the show and talk about like why it might be difficult for us to get a second season of it. On Thursday, it's Fan Quizzlemania. And we've got a hell of a Quizzlemania coming up this week because it's the Denise Salcedo one. But you yourself can be part of Quizzlemania by joining in Fan Quizzlemania that you are co-hosting this week, Sullivan.
Yes, indeed. Can't wait.
You and Andy Datson and Tempest, of course, can be a very, very fun show. And then on Friday, myself and Oliver Davis will be recording our review of TNA Slammiversary 2005. Well, thank you to all of you for helping that win the poll. I was watching it yesterday and I had a nostalgia overload. I had a wonderful, wonderful time watching it. That an opening 6-way match that's about 7 minutes long is brilliant, and it's got Shark Boy in it. And I was like, it's on the train and the Shark Boy thing when I was watching it. Oh, it's such a good time. I love 2005 TNA. It's great, but also really cack at the same time. Oh, beautiful, wonderful stuff.
Oh, maybe I'll go and watch it as well, just for fun.
It's free on YouTube. It's great. TNA loaded it themselves. It's free to watch on YouTube. Raven's in the main event. It's tremendous stuff. Absolute wonderful bollocks. And also, if you are one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name shouted out on the air like these fine folk manipulating Manny Umaria.
How do you like them apples, Marcel Dura?
Marcus, he's got soul, Campbell.
Have a glass of sherry, Martel J. Simmons.
He's got 2 first names, Matt Howard.
The real boss, Matt Robinson.
What's love got to do with it, Matthew Turner.
You'll never get this name right, you idiots, Matthew Zmijowski.
That's good. We always say Zimjewski, but I don't know if that's right either. And Matthew's never corrected us. Max Kurt Wallander Wallen.
Michael Jensen Radio.
Michael Mark for Life Plowman.
And meticulous Michaela Traub.
Thank you all so much for backing us over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Right, let's get into the rest of your Ultra Chats. WrestleTalk.com/support. Get your voice heard. We've got a few more here on the Vince McMahon situation. Tom Evans saying, I don't know if that's the same Tom Evans that I went to school with, but if it is, let me know. I don't know about you guys, but I felt awkward after Vince came out. I felt as if I was supporting him. Oh no, we did that one earlier in the day. So thank you anyway for that one, Tom. Will said, hi guys, Vince coming out clearly killed the mood for you, Luke, because your review took a turn for the overly critical. I didn't think the show was that bad. I felt it was at least a 3 out of 5. Vince's music is still the most over in the company. And as I chatted to 10 Pistons News on the Friday show, the board is still conducting the investigation and nothing's been definitively proven yet. I understand it's frustrating that Vince is doing this, but it still hasn't been shown to be guilty. Hi, Sullivan. Now, there's a point you've made there, Will, that's not entirely wrong, which is that he hasn't been found guilty of wrongdoing yet. That's entirely fine. However, like, they themselves did admit that he did have the affair. Like, that is in their own statement. They were like, it was a consensual affair. And it's less about whether or not he had the affair, because we've known that about Vince over the years. Like, that's not the thing that really bothers me. I think, like, the upping the pay and using WWE monies for that, like, I think that is, it's grossly misconduct. And like, it was the whole, like, passing her around like a toy makes me feel very uncomfortable. And it's not really, like, my issue with him coming out on TV is not because he did a bad thing. Because Vince has always done bad things and he's always come out on TV. My issue is more just coming out on TV now while the investigation is going on. And the reason why he is doing it is what turns me off on it. It's not anything that he did, while bad. It's just like the blasé nature of nothing affects me and I'm actually pleased that this is all happening. That's what makes me feel uncomfortable about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely, and like, you know, he wasn't involved in any storylines beforehand. He's been, like, famously trying to, supposedly take himself off television as much as possible, and the message it sends him coming out on television is, as you say, I don't care. I get to look at how powerful I am. Look how great I am. Ugh.
I have the same thing with politicians that. When there's no accountability for things, they do things wrong, and then there's never any accountability for it, and they just carry on. And it happens with people of power across all forms of business and stuff. And I find that really, really annoying and very irritating, and it really bothers me as a human being. Dakwon G said, I believe he's pulling a Clinton (brackets Bill) and then he knows he did wrong, but he's hoping the fan reactions will keep him out of the fire. I mean, I think Sean actually describes him as like, he is that dog meme that is just, he's out being like, everything's fine while there's just fires around him everywhere.
Absolutely. It must be really hard to work with him for that reason.
Yeah. I think you actually could have ended the sentence there. Must be really hard to work with him. Full stop. Sullivan Mo Brown.
So many reasons.
So many reasons. On to other stuff. Kevin said, SmackDown, November 1st, 2019. NXT invades SmackDown. Ciampa interrupts Miz TV. Don't know if Miz is saying he never spoke to him last week as a heel thing or just WWE rewriting history. Oh, yeah, I forgot NXT doesn't exist if they're not competing with AEW. My bad. Yeah, Kevin, I would imagine they don't remember that happened.
Yep.
And I think as well, like, Miz saying I've never had a conversation with him is pretty much a heel thing. I think they are working together. But it's, I honestly don't think they're going to reference the fact that they invaded SmackDown back in 2019, because I think everyone is like, no one's remembering these things backstage. Like Simham, Nara Simham B. Haven't watched Raw in forever, but I did catch up on the Elias Ezekiel segment. From Postmania to now, how is this the most over thing going on? The rivalry keeps rowing and rowing. It's like, it is over. Cannot deny that. I just think it is a storyline that's also going nowhere. And I think that we need an end game here, because this storyline has no end game currently.
Yeah, they have no idea what to do. They just keep adding brothers.
Vandalian 1998, the best storyline in my opinion is Kevin claiming Elias and Ezekiel are the same. I wonder if it will develop into more that Elias has made an appearance. Luke and Mr. WrestleTalk need to be on screen at the same time. We don't have those skills. Also, Sullivan, where was the title you were gifted?
Oh, it's currently in the office.
we can't get to the office because of the trains and that.
Yes. Otherwise, I would have it on my shoulder right now and forever.
Ryadia said, this may have been the most boring episode of Raw in quite some time. The in-reaction was good as usual, but it felt like an empty 3 hours. I always feel like AEW is overstuffed with content, and WWE is like a bag of Lay's crisps/chips. It's 30% empty air. That's a really good example, actually, right? Like, Raw is a bag of crisps.
Yep.
Oh, it looks full. And then you open it up and you go like, where's the rest of it?
This cost me a couple of quid. Doesn't make any sense. What do they spend it on?
Where's it all gone? We've got like a third bag in here.
Oh, now they're all grumbly.
But all at the same time, you don't want to have like, an AEW bag of crisps where you open up and they all just like fall out on you and you're like, oh no, too many crisps in this bag.
Oh no, I've been overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed by the crisps falling out onto me. Ryadia said, question time. Could the rest of Judgment Day not do anything? What happened with the Dirty Dogs and Omos? That's a great question, Ryadia. What did happen with the Dirty Dogs and Omos?
I have no clue.
That was 2 weeks ago, didn't they? They interrupted Omos and MVP, and we haven't seen them since.
But were they brought back just to interrupt somebody?
Yeah, I guess so, and turn face in the process. The questions continue. Can Cedric, Shelton, and Dijak ever escape the main event? And why can't Roman just send in promos from a nice table while he's at home? Love you all. Well, Riot DR, I think that's probably because while he's at home, he's just enjoying being at home and not working. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Maybe he could do some pre-tape stuff. Vandalia 1998 said, unfortunately, I can see Omos winning the ladder match just without using the ladder, reaching up and grabbing the briefcase because he's just so tall.
Oh, but the briefcase would have to be so low down.
But what if MVP lowers it? What if he lowers the briefcase? It's like, it's like King of the Ring 1999. Who lowered it was the Big Boss Man who lowered the briefcase, but who lowered the briefcase? One of the greatest mysteries. No, it was the Big Boss Man. They said it literally the following night on Raw. Everyone was like, who lowered it was the Boss Man. The Boss Man literally said, I did it.
A mystery.
That's such a mystery. Who threw the pie at Kevin Owens and who lowered the briefcase? No one of them was the Big Boss Man. Aten said, what if Elias and Ezekiel are actually twins and WWE are just doing a prestige thing? Oh, what if they've fooled us all massively?
I would be so happy if that was the case.
That'd be amazing. I would love that. Vandalia again said, I agree with Luke. Miz hasn't been relevant since his feud with Shane, and that was 3 years ago. His feud with Miz Dad was fun. Blakey said, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. He did it for The Miz. That really got me. Oh, I nearly snorted. That made me laugh so much. Yeah. Thank you, Chris, for your donation. Just pointing out, I'm done with backstage stuff. I want to focus on the wrestlers. There's always that option as well. And I hope actually we'll see Sullivan in Series 2 of My GM Mode. Sullivan, do you think you'd be good at My GM Mode for the Monday Night War?
I would absolutely be terrible at booking the shows, but it looks like a lot of fun. But I wouldn't want to replace either of you two. I think you two have the great connection there. So I'll happily continue as a viewer.
Kevin said, thank you for the My GM podcast on Patreon. It was a lot of fun. Question, if there is a Series 2, will you still keep using the characters and SmackDown Raw, or try different GMs and or shows like NXT and NXT UK to mix things up? I think we'd still keep us. I think we would just use us as the characters. I think that's a lot of fun. Taking over a different show? Yeah, I guess so. I think Raw and SmackDown makes sense because they're like the two big shows. So I think we'd probably just keep those as well. But I've got nothing against picking NXT or NXT UK, for example. And George Todd says, for your information, I loved the My GM Mode series. It was my favorite thing every week. Celebrate the final episode with a nice takeaway and bourbon. Oh, very nice. So one of my one of my 40 before 40, Sullivan, is to get into whiskey, because I've never found a whiskey that I like. And I think, hey, as I'm approaching 40, maybe I always like the idea of having whiskey on ice, and just supping out of a glass. Oh, my friends do it and they look really cool, and I'm there with my gin and tonic looking less cool than they are.
It's tough.
It is tough, isn't it? Because I just think I'm too much of a wuss to enjoy whiskey the way it's meant to be enjoyed. So, but for Father's Day, my daughter did buy me my first whiskey, and a lovely book as well. So it's maybe that'll be the time I get into whiskey. Because I mean, how cool does George sound? Watching the final episode with a takeaway and a nice glass of bourbon sounds cool.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, my first date with Brooke, she only drank whiskey, and I was like, "Oh, God, she's cool. She's
cool.
What have you been doing today, Brooke? Oh, my cartoon is in the New Yorker. Oh, wow. Great.
Where'd you go to school?
Harvard. Oh, brilliant. Great. Well, I'm going home. Thank you very much, Brooke.
I had an audition for a commercial.
I have to dress as Elvis in this audition. I did once have an audition where they wanted, if I got the job, I'd have to dress like Elvis, play the ukulele. And so I did not give it my all.
I don't know if I really tried.
Very much was like, it was the early days of being with my agent. So I was like, you know what? I'll turn up to the audition. I won't say no because that might look bad, but I won't do it well. And then they won't give me the job.
Also, George Todd in the chats here talking about that bourbon. Cost him $500.
George,
it's $500.
Did he give you superpowers or something?
Made of actual gold. Armageddon 94 said, I want to keep things positive today. I really enjoyed the My GM series and I'm hoping for a season 2. Luke, yours and Pete's chemistry and the GM character work was superb. Hope we get to see more of it. Me too. Benny Boy said, how happy are you watching Slammiversary, Luke? Shark Boy was definitely a highlight for me. I just needed Curryman. Oh, if Curryman was on Slammiversary this past weekend, I'd have been so thrilled because he's hot, he's spicy, he tastes great. It's Curryman. Christopher Daniels can still go, everyone. We could have had it happen.
He tastes great.
Oh, what a time to be alive. Watching Shark Boy and Curryman as a tag team in TNA. Lovely stuff. Kevin said, I didn't watch Raw, so I'll review Slammiversary instead. It was a love letter to 20 years of TNA. So if you like TNA, you'll love the show, especially Alexander versus Young. The Monsters Ball match made me think Terry's got a bit overzealous with the thumbtacks.
Terry Lamongi.
Terry Lamongi. Terry Lamongi and her thumbtacks.
Oh, it's furious. Absolutely furious.
I thoroughly enjoyed Slammiversary, and I did watch it. It was a wonderful love letter to the 20 years, particularly to the TNA that I like. It had the reverse battle royal and a Monsters Ball and a King of the Mountain match. Like, it was just designed for me and my era of TNA, and I loved it. Charles Berg said, this weekend marked the thrilling finale of CBW Series 2. And you were both remarkable. Thoroughly enjoyed Silver Bro's moral dilemma. Neither option was good, and he was forced to make one. And Jurgen, a broken man driven by rage and revenge. Chef's kiss.
Thank you. I love CBW. I'm very happy with the finale.
Oh, so good. Ender Madden said, hey guys, I know most of it is out of AEW's control, but I'm quite sad leading into Forbidden Door. Seemingly no Okada, Ibushi, Punk, or Omega, or even the GOD. Just not the big dream card I think most of us were hoping to see for years. I think that's actually quite fair. We'll see like the full card by the end of this episode of Dynamite, which is when we're going to do our predictions. But yeah, kind of like as it stands, like Moxley Tanahashi, I think is going to be awesome. And I'm really, really into Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy because I think that's a dream match I didn't think of. So that
Yes.
I like. I think that they zigged when I thought they were going to zag, and I think that's actually a really, really fun dream match to kind of surprise people and be like, "Hey, I bet you didn't predict this one," because I don't think many people did.
Yeah.
The rest of it is like, I think the triple threat tag match will be fun. The 6-man tag will be fun because it's Suzuki versus Eddie, but like, yeah, I kind of get what you mean. Like, we haven't had a big Okada match announced, like a big Ibushi match, a big Naito match announced. Something for God. Like, it does sort of feel like there are some names missing from this show.
Yes. It feels like that it's such an opportunity wasted, which is not what you wanted coming out of this at all. It's
Tenrosa said, Kushida, you're a brilliant man and welcome back. Yes, if anyone didn't see the news, Kushida returned to New Japan today, which was very, very exciting. What are you wanting to see from the Go Home episode of Dynamite? We need a weekly wrestling sketch show from Sullivan. Thoughts on the blocks for the G1? Rosa and Willow going to Japan looks incredible. I love you, fellas. Well, quite a few questions there, but yeah, what do I want to see from the Go Home episode? Some more like matches that are going to make me go like, oh man, cannot wait for this weekend. Like, that's really what I'd like to see. A weekly sketch show with Sullivan. Don't hate that, mate. Love the idea of that.
Be fun.
And yeah, G1, I think the CSG1 could be a really, really good one. I think we could have a very, very fun G1 this year. Committed Production says, good morning from Texas. Huge fan of everything and everyone on this channel. Life's been a bit of a tosser lately. I've been having a hard time kicking out. Is there any chance I could get a soundbite of Sullivan telling me it's all going to be okay?
Absolutely. And it is all going to be okay. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. As the wise King Solomon once found, due to a very convoluted riddle that I won't go into, something that will always make a sad man happy and a happy man sad is that this time shall pass. Do not worry, this time shall pass.
Wonderful stuff. And Tenrosa here said, Denise hosting Quizzlemania is going to be an interesting affair. Gonna miss Adam on the show. Hope he shows up. What in WWE are you really looking forward to? Don't know much how you can be pumped for anything. Did you watch Slammiversary or Triple Mania? I did actually. I watched Slammiversary and I really enjoyed it. Kind of excited to see what the next chapter. I'm now back into the position of like, I want to see what the next chapter of Elias Ezekiel is, which I haven't been for a while. So I'm looking forward to that. And like, it's Money in the Bank. I always love a Money in the Bank ladder match. Like, it's exciting to always see like who is going to be this year's Mr. and Mrs. Money in the Bank. So that is something I'm always excited about.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that. Money in the Bank is usually a pay-per-view that delivers. It's like the Royal Rumble. It's like you can have a whole year of bad pay-per-views, but then the Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank usually, not always, usually deliver.
Yeah, usually. And lastly, another one from Chris here is just to remind us that there are a few other people that work at WWE. There's actually hundreds, thousands of people that work at the company, and they all work very, very hard. And always an interesting point to make. So that is going to do it for this episode of the show. Sullivan, is there anything you would like to plug? How's the Kickstarter going?
Oh, it's gone stupidly well. Thank you so much for allowing me to plug it once again. But yes, we have reached our first stretch goal of £10,000, which we thought was absolutely crazy. We reached our first stretch goal within 9 days of launching the Kickstarter, and now we are moving towards our next one because basically we're doing all of the fringe and everything completely unpaid, and so now our next stretch goal is to maybe pay us a week's wages. And so that'll be at 12,000 because there's 4 of us involved with producing and making the show. And yeah, if you want to come along, you can get some Brooke Bourgeois original art now of the show, which is like £100 a piece, which is a real bargain comparatively to her normal commission price. And yeah, come along.
She's a proper artist.
She's a proper artist, a proper artist, a New Yorker cartoonist. She's
cartoonist, everyone.
It's great stuff. So yeah, go to Kickstarter, grab your little mitts. If you look that up on Kickstarter, you'll be able to find us. And yeah, thank you so much.
When are the London dates?
So we've got one show in Hounslow on the 23rd. Then we've got another show in East London, I think nearby Liverpool Street at Theatre Delhi on the 25th. And then the big show is on the 27th. That's at Covent Garden Studios. And that's when I recommend you all, especially to come along to. Not that the other shows won't be good to come along to, they'll be great. But the 27th is going to be a big one. It's right in central London. And it's going to be quite the event, I think.
Excellent stuff. Well, thank you all so much for watching, everyone. We are back tomorrow here on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel with SP3 and Sat Iniangi reviewing NXT 2.0. And then myself and Oliver Davis will be reviewing the Go Home episode for AEW and New Japan's Forbidden Door with the Dynamite review. And then following that, we'll be doing the prediction show for Forbidden Door ahead of this coming Sunday, when AEW and New Japan stars face off, or in some cases team together, for Forbidden Door. We'll be doing live reactions to that show, which we're very, very, very excited about. It's a packed old week here on the WrestleTalk Podcast, so please do consider subscribing and enabling all those notifications and whatnot. Sullivan, thank you all so much for joining me, and thank you all for watching this episode. We will see you tomorrow. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.
Sorry, Mod Mother just reminded me that I didn't actually read the results of the poll, so I'll do that now. Thank you, Jenna. Surprise, everyone! I'm back. Luckily, no one's left. No one's left yet. So 46% of the viewers voted for 2 out of 4, while 36% voted for 1 out of 4. I think that's unfair. And 12% voted for 3 out of 4. Sorry, I'll do that again. 4 out of 4 got 5% of the poll, 3 out of 4 got 12% of the poll, 1 out of 4 got 36%, and 2 out of 4 got 45%. So thank you all so much for voting. I think 2 out of 4 is a fair result, but 1 out of 4 I think is far too harsh. I think that is a too harsh of a score. Anyway, now I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you all.